In episode 5 of The Bad Batch, the squad goes on an Indiana Jones style treasure hunt. I did a video explaining why I think this episode was filler, but it served an intentional purpose for Hunter and Echo's story. Now, during their hunt, they woke an ancient power that shares similarities to the ancient technology of the Zeffo. So this begs the question for many, who were these ancients? More than just a nod to the Zeffo, I think the appearance of the giant war machine hints at a larger story that we will slowly step into and may provide the next big conflict in Star Wars. As the legend of Skara Nal is explained by Fi, the Zeffo were not explicitly named in this. Instead, we're given a vague reference to the ancients that predate the Jedi Order and the Republic. The Zeffo certainly fit the bill here. The Zeffo were mysterious and relatively unknown, so it's not out of the question to guess that they've gone by different names throughout history. To many, they could just be known as the Ancients. Now, the obvious connection between the Zeffo and the Ancients is this great war machine that is awoken at the end of the episode. This war machine bears striking similarity to the Tomb Guardians of Zeffo and even looks like the Zeffo themselves. The Tomb Guardians were ancient droids that were constructed by the Zeffo to guard their tombs and crypts. They were powered by a core that could emit a high-powered energy blast. Man, I hate trying to dodge that in Fallen Order. The energy blast of these ancient guardians is similar to what we see in this four-legged mech. The similarities between these ancient machines really does build a good argument for the Zeffo making an appearance in the Bad Batch. But until they're named, we can't confirm that it's the same ancient race. Don't tune me out though. I do think that the Ancients and the Zeffo are most likely the same. In fact, I think the war machine may even hint at more of Zephonian history. So here's where I want to theorize about a possibly bigger picture. What if we're stepping into a larger ancient world that perhaps the Zeffo are part of? I think this could be really interesting. The Zeffo are already a mysterious race that exude knowledge and power. If you didn't know, they were able to wield the Force. They referred to it as the Life Wind, and instead of calling them Jedi, these ancient beings referred to their Force wielders as sages. They were generally peaceful, but they eventually fell down a darker path near the end of their known existence. So let me jump back to these temple guards real quick, these temple guardians. Their purpose was to protect Zeffo tombs, but this machine in the Bad Batch hints at something else, because it is clearly a destroyer rather than a protector. You don't create a weapon like that unless you mean to destroy, and if you mean to destroy, that implies that there are others to destroy. So let's talk about those others. The Zeffo had a dark ending to their story, one that we only vaguely know about. I think that this war machine hints at exactly that, a war. So who were these Zeffo at war with? There's a couple options I can see. First, they were at war with themselves. One of the last great sages of the Zeffo was named Kujet. He is the one found entombed on Dathomir holding the last of the Astriums. He fell to the dark side and ordered that the Astriums used in the Zeffo religious practices be destroyed. What we do know is that a rebellion rose up against him, and he massacred this rebellion on Dathomir. So could this rebellion have been part of a much larger civil war between the Zeffo? Perhaps. My other theory is that there are other ancient civilizations that have yet to be named in Star Wars canon. These other ancient races could be on par with the Zeffo, subservient to the Zeffo, or maybe even greater than the Zeffo. Maybe the ancients referred to by Fi in the Bad Batch aren't the Zeffo. What if there's someone else? I think the idea of building out the ancient world before the Jedi, Sith, and the Republic could be a really interesting direction for new content. Imagine a trilogy of movies that explores a time long before the Skywalker saga, but also long before the Old Republic. I'd certainly be interested in that. So let's return to the Star Wars story we already know. The idea of ancient races at war with each other could have implications for future enemies of characters we already know. Any one of these potential ancient races could return as antagonists. For example, the fate of the Zeffo is relatively unknown. One of the last sages explains in a recording that the Zeffo fled into the Great Unknown. I have to imagine this is something similar to the Unknown regions. But they were facing extinction, so they fled. That indicates to me that they are likely somewhere in the galaxy waiting. Who's to say that after all this time, they haven't set their eyes on the destruction of the civilization that took their place in the galaxy? Now, chronologically, I think we could see the return of the Zeffo or whatever ancient threat after the sequel trilogy. Many would argue, myself included, that the sequel trilogy would have been better if we were dealing with an ancient threat like this rather than the rebranded Empire and a hastily resurrected Palpatine. So maybe let's imagine, for example, a story where Grogu is much older and leads some sort of new Jedi Order. The Ancients could certainly return and be a great threat, and a story that would provide a refreshing change of scenery from the rinse and repeat of dealing with Palpatine. The threat of the Zeffo could maybe fit into something that the Ahsoka show deals with, but I think it would be a stretch to say that a great ancient threat returned between the Return of the Jedi and the sequels, which is when I think Ahsoka is going to take place. Regardless, the Zeffo and whatever else may come of their ancient world is a really fascinating concept that could have really awesome story potential in the future. Please let me know how you'd like to see the Zeffo story fit into the larger picture of Star Wars. I'll quit rambling now so that you can move on to other things, but if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. But more importantly, engage in some discussion in the comments. I truly believe the comments are one of the best parts of YouTube. Seeing all of your thoughts on these Star Wars topics is so fun to me. I really do learn a lot from you guys. Anyways, have a great rest of your day, and may the Force be with you.